Scientist John on the case. Hello everyone and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host Alex, but you can call me Senpai, and joining me tonight we have our czar of source material, John.
When I was a young boy, my father... I don't remember the rest of the lyrics.
Took me into the city of Tempest. Oh my god, that was a terrible way to rhyme that. But anyway, yes. So John and I have gotten together tonight to do, admittedly late, but still necessary, Spoilercast for Slime Tensei Season 2, Part 2. So we will be spoiling just about anything and everything you could possibly spoil. So if you haven't seen the second half of Season 2 of Slime Tensei, I think definitely go watch it. It's pretty good. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing tonight. So I guess let's get right into it. It's still Studio 8-bit. I mean, it still looks good. Everything's pretty much the same from part 1 in terms of like cast and crew. Nothing's really changed. It was the second half of the season was split from the first half. It was turned into a split core season. I don't think it was ever like really announced at the time. If it is, like, feel free to tell me I'm wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure it was because of what was going on with COVID-19 at the time. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't remember there actually being an announcement as to why it was done as a split core, but it was.
Listen, the last 2 years, everything's been delayed. Everything's been put on hold. Like, hiatus, this and that, COVID, this and that. Like, it's a really, I don't know, usual.
It's funny.
It's normal now to me. Like, hey, so this thing that was supposed to air this season, it's got pushed back 1 or 2 seasons. Like, that was kind of unheard of prior to COVID, right? Where it's like, oh, that's weird. Like, maybe one show every year or two, 1 or 2 shows every year or two would be pushed back. Like, it'd be rare. But
sometimes it was due to things beyond like the studio's control or beyond the television network that was broadcasting its control. Like, sometimes it was because natural disasters. Sometimes it was because of, news events that would co-opt and, push stuff back. But yeah, it's become sort of the norm recently that we get a bunch of split core seasons like this, especially ones that are longer than, 12, 13, 14 episodes, getting split in 2 and then, moved a season or 2 later down the line. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that, and we mentioned this when we did our first part Spoilercast for Slime Tensei Season 2. I don't think that based on where they cut it off, that it was necessarily designed to be split into where it was. I think they just did it out of necessity.
Yeah, it definitely did not seem like a intentional split because the story picks up right afterwards. Like, there's no... Mm-hmm. Oh shit! Did they do a recap episode? The first
they did do a recap episode that aired the first week of the season that the second part aired. I think it was called Veldora's Journal or something like that.
Oh, I can't remember. That's right. The episode that wasn't really an episode, but they had to make it.
Yeah. It was called Veldora's Journal 2. It was the name of that episode. They had another one for the first season as well, I do believe. But yeah, so that happened. So we got a new OP and ED. I think we have somewhat mixed opinions about them. So we were talking beforehand about the OP, right? So the OP is called Like Flames. It's by Mindarin. And but we were talking before we got started that this OP looks and sounds like an AMV from like the mid-2000s.
Yeah, like, it's not a bad song. Don't get me wrong. But it definitely gives me the vibe of like someone made an AMV out of it. Like, someone made an AMV for the OP instead of like an actual OP for an anime. Maybe because I'm biased and I really liked the other OPs, like Season 1 and the first part of Season 2 OPs. I really like those.
Yeah, there's something about this. It just gives all that AMV vibe. I'm not necessarily saying that's bad because I actually did enjoy it quite a bit. It's just that it gives off that AMV vibe, and it's like, okay, I'm here for it. It's not great, but it's not bad either.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the ED though. I will say that.
The ED did leave a lot to be desired for me as well. So the ED is called Reincarnate. It is by Takuma Terashima. And yeah, it feels kind of weak compared to everything else we've gotten OP and ED wise for Slime Tensei. I'll stop short of calling it bad. It's just it doesn't feel like it belongs with the rest of the OPs and the EDs.
Yeah, I don't think it was bad. I just didn't like it too much. It's a personal preference thing, you know?
Also, I felt like the visuals were a little bit weak for it.
Again, just spoiled because the other ones I liked a lot more.
Yeah, I know, right? But we won't spend too much time talking about that. Let's talk about the stories so far. So when we left off at the end of part 1 of this season, the Nation of Tempest had just overcome the surprise attack by the Bloomid Army and the Western Holy Church, which was fucking awesome, by the way. Rimuru got awakened as a quote-unquote true demon lord. What was it? The Great Sage was like ascended to Raphael. Veldora got released. That was fucking amazing. We found out that Milam had been acting sus and just attacking people seemingly at random. And Demon Lord Carrion, who was the leader of the, what was it, like the Beast Nation of Urazania?
Urazania, yeah.
Urazania, however you're supposed to pronounce it. Tasmania.
Tasmania, Europe.
Had disappeared, and a lot of people had presumed that he was dead. So that's kind of where we left off at the end of part 1. I think I've summarized most of the major events of part 1. Unless, did I leave anything off there, John?
No, that was it. Major event-wise.
So then we get into the first few episodes of the first 6 episodes, really the first half of this core of season 2. It's just talking. It's just so talk.
Yeah, it's very plot heavy.
It's very not narrative. Jesus, what's the word I'm looking for? My brain over the last couple of days has failed me. Exposition. It's exposition heavy. My brain over the last 2 days, I don't know what it is, has completely failed me. I don't know if I'm not drinking enough coffee or what.
I mean, too much coffee. More sleep.
Too much coffee. Yeah. That's pretty much the first 6 episodes of this core is just mostly people talking and planning and scheming. In fact, the first episode of this core feels pretty much like a breather episode after what happened at the very end of part 1 of this season. You have a lot of people. It's just celebrations after the attack, and everyone coming back to life, and Rimuru awakening as a demon lord. It's a bunch of celebrations and people acting joyous and festive, and it's like everyone's like, all right, everything's gonna be all right now, right? No, it's not. So I was gonna ask you, do you think, because you've read one of the source materials for this anime.
I read the original source material, excuse you.
Yeah, although this anime is based on the light novel, you have read the web novel.
Yes.
And I was going to ask, in terms of like anime series composition, do you think that all of this, like dedicating almost 6 full episodes to just like narrative exposition and people talking and scheming in the midst of all this other stuff that was going on, do you think that was a good idea?
I think so. So I have future knowledge. I have proprietary knowledge and shit.
Yeah, you do.
Right. So
you know where the story is going. I don't.
Yeah. All of this in season 2, or this part of season 2, is the expositing and stuff. It's all set up for the end. Like, it's a reason. It seems very boring and not very action heavy. Like, sure, like in the first season, right? We had the 2-3 battles or something. I think it was.
Yeah, I think there were 2 major battles, and there was 1 miniature like skirmish.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we as anime viewers get the formula, right? Like.
Yeah.
Yada yada something next battle. Yada yada.
Especially with isekai.
Something.
Like
yeah.
isekai is like that, where you get like the first couple episodes of an isekai will just be exposition and world building, and then you get a battle, exposition, battle, exposition, battle, exposition. That's pretty much the formula for isekai.
Yeah. So I was hyped for this season to release because I was like, yo, it's the fucking Demon Lord arc. Let's fucking go. So the next arc, the very next arc, it's probably going to be I don't think it's gonna have enough time to exposit because it's straight up just action. Like, there's a little bit of expositing towards the end for like the major reveal of like why everything's happening and conspiring. But other than that, I don't mind it because again, this is all important information that I'm sure no one's gonna fucking remember or even care about because if they decide to do a season 3, then it's literally it's the war arc. So
yeah,
I just leave it at that. It's the war arc.
Well, it's funny because there were people who were complaining about how all talking and stuff in this core, and there's a member of our Discord server named Earl Grey, and I've heard other people who are privy to the story of the light novel and the web novel, like yourself, pretty much describe Slime Tensei this way. They've described like season 1 of Slime Tensei as nation building. Season 2, which we got a lot of in the second half, was politicking. And then the third season, or whatever continues after this, will just be all out fucking war. So would you, as someone who's read this source material, would you say that's a pretty accurate description of what Slime Tensei is?
100%, yeah.
So then I would say in terms of what, I mean, not to spoil anything that comes after this, but I would say in terms of what you said about what's coming up after this, and what we've seen so far, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that they spent so much time just talking and airing out these characters. And there was also a little bit of world building that was going on during all this exposition as well. But yeah, that's pretty much what the first 6 episodes are. And we see it from multiple perspectives as well, not just from the members of the nation of Tempest, but some of their allies as well. They come to this giant meeting that's being held to discuss like their future and all that good stuff. And then we also see it from the antagonist side as well. We see a bunch of planning and scheming going on with Clayman. We see it with some of the other demon lords. We finally see Milim again. Finally. After forever. We also see that behind the scenes, it's actually Yuki that is pulling the strings.
Yuki Kaji?
Yeah, I wish. No. The guy that we met that seemed, when we first met Yuki in was it the first half of season, was it the end of season 1 or the first half of season 2? I can't remember now. I feel like it was the end of season 1 is when we first met Yuki, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. When we first met him, it's revealed that he's someone like Rimuru who was pulled from the real world, much like there are other characters that we've met so far as well, who have been pulled from the real world. But he seems to have a greater grasp and knowledge of how this world works than just about anybody else. And it turns out we find out in this season that he's the one that's been pulling the strings behind the scenes, and it's like might be just an evil fucker.
Yeah, who knows? I know. I'm not going to say anything, but
yeah. And in the course of this, we find out that part of what he's trying to do, or at least a big part of what he's trying to do, is resurrect the Curse Lord Kazarim.
Kind of. So all we know about Yuki is that he's a guy. He's the guild master of an adventurer's branch or something, right? And for whatever reason, it seems like he's scheming. And then in a flashback with Clayman talking to Yuki, Yuki's like, hey, so I can revive the Demon Lord, the Curse Lord Kazalim if you want. And that's kind of like where they leave it. And that's a very interesting thing. You think about it, we just saw how powerful all the Demon Lords are supposedly supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're all pretty powerful. So this guy, this otherworlder, just says he can revive one of them? That's kind of sus, right?
Yeah, I mean, it makes it seem like, despite the fact that he is another worlder, from the real world, so to speak, that he is either A, found some way to get some knowledge about this world that other people that have come from the real world don't have, or B, he's been in this world a lot longer than it seems.
Yeah, so...
I mean, it's also revealed that he's been the one that's essentially been in control of what Clayman is doing, more or less.
Yeah, they kind of yada yada over that part a little bit for why Clayman is even doing what he's doing. They show him saying, I want to build my own nation one day, blah blah blah, and the clown troop was like, Clayman, don't get too big for your britches. There's a little bit more to that. I'm not sure why they didn't show it. I'm not sure if they're ever going to show it, but it's in relation to what happens at the end, so I'm not going to say anything, but they did skip over that part a little bit, which is...
I do like how in the little flashback bits that we get where it's the Harlequin troupe that's talking to Clayman. You get what's the main guy's name? Lapis. You get him saying basically straight up to Clayman, don't ever count. Basically, he's saying to him, "Don't count your chickens before they hatch, man." And
yeah,
it's like fucking. It's like, oh my god, this is what foreshadowing is, boys and girls.
There's something that they didn't show about Clayman, and I'm not sure if they're ever going to revisit it. So I guess I can put that out. So Clayman is part of the clown troupe, and each one of them has like a specialty, right? As we can see, like with the information that we have now, with like Lapis, Tyr, I don't remember the big guy's name, and
Footman.
Footman, and then Clayman, right?
Yes.
So Clayman has always been the scheming, smart guy who thinks he's really like, think Carmilla from oh my god, I was gonna say
Castlevania.
Castlevania. Yeah, think Carmilla. She's always thinking of a plan, and she's always like gonna take over, and it's everyone else's fault, and this and that, right?
Yeah.
So in the flashback, Lapis does tell Clayman like, "Hey, I know you're smart, but you're not that strong, so make sure you watch your back when you're doing stuff." And like Clayman, obviously he doesn't heed that warning and he does whatever he wants, and that's why he's getting his comeuppance, which is why it's like, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. But then you also got to think about like, why did he decide to do all this fucked up shit, right? So in his flashback, he's a lot kinder, and he's good friends with the clown troupe. But from what we've seen so far, he treats them kind of just like pawns. And they're like, "Clayman, we don't know what you're doing, but whatever, buddy. You're our friends, so we're going to do stuff for you." And he's just like, "Ha, fucking clown troupe." And it's like, that's weird. In his flashback, he never treated them like that. So what happened, right?
Yeah.
And now that we know that Yuki's the one pulling the strings, it's kind of just like, what did Yuki do? And it's kind of implied that Yuki promised him that I can revive Kazarim, so you should listen to what I do, or listen to what I tell you to do. But it's like
also very subtly implied that if you help me, I can make you I can raise your standing amongst the demon lords too.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, I'd say. There's a lot of subtlety going on here that, again, because they didn't include certain scenes, it'd be a lot harder to pick up on. And again, I only know like future information, so this is why I know about this.
I also feel that, given what happens at the end of this, which at the end of the season, which we will obviously get to here in a few moments, and the fact that Lapis is obviously still alive and kicking, I feel like they might eventually come back to that, if that is indeed the case, with maybe a flashback from his perspective at some point.
Yeah, and there's also the like little scene at the very end where Demon Lord Valentine, right, comes back to his territory, and then he's like, haha, guess what? Clayman's a fucking idiot. He's dead now. And then Lapis literally just rips the dude's heart out and kills him.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the clown troupe is a little bit more significant, and I'm kind of sad they didn't play too much on that. I mean, they'll play a bigger part.
They didn't get a whole lot of like screen time in this. Well, particularly in this second core of this season, they got a little more screen time in the first half, but they got almost none in this second half.
Yeah, well, in the first half, they were just basically like just people going around fucking shit up, right?
Yeah, they were agents of chaos.
Yeah, they're just like, hoo, let's go fucking do this. Well, I don't know why he wants us to do that, but let's go do it for Clayman. And it just seems like they're goofy, like, characters, but then, like, you get Lapis being like, "Oh, I can't believe you killed Clayman," rips out the fucking Demon Lord's heart, kills him. Like, whoa, what the fuck happened here? Like,
yeah, definitely sets up some stuff coming down the road for sure. Yeah, and then it makes you wonder, like, who is this character actually? Like, is he super strong? Is he like some agent? Well, he's obviously an agent for Yuki, because you see him, scheming with Yuki during all this exposition and dialogue in these first 6 episodes. You're like, is he way more he's obviously way more powerful than he lets on, right?
Well, as we saw, like, all the clowns and the moderate clown troupe are following Yuki, because Yuki did promise that he could revive Demon Lord Kazarim.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
pretty obvious why they're following him. But yeah, it's like,
why do they follow Clayman though? Like, I can understand why they follow Yuki, but we need to see why they follow Clayman. So like, and they just don't question anything that he does.
yeah. And again, that's part of the whole flashback thing. Like, they talk about it a little bit more in the novels. Like, again, Clayman is part of the moderate clown troupe. They all serve under Demon Lord Kazarim, and they're all friends, right? That's why Lapras even gets mad and kills Valentine, because Valentine made fun of Clayman. So then, like, because Lapras earlier when he met Valentine, he was like, oh, fuck, the Demon Lord's here. He's shooting fucking eye beams. Get the fuck out, right? And he runs away. So you think he's weak, right?
Yeah.
But at this point, like, he's so pissed off that he just rips out Valentine's heart. And it's like, wait, he could do that from the beginning. So why was he doing that? And again, because we know that the moderate clown troupe is only following Clayman. Because again, they're all friends. They all know each other. They were created by Demon Lord Kazarim. So obviously they take care of each other. It's just weird that Clayman was acting like that, but they didn't question it because it's like, well, he's been the weakest of us, but he's always been the dreamer, right? The schemer. He's got big plans. He's always doing something.
Yep. So one thing we haven't talked about in these first 6 episodes is your boy Veldora.
Yo, Veldora! I fucking love Veldora. I'm so sad his interactions have been played down. Like, he's a lot more...
Are they even, like, more intense in the source material?
Not as intense, but he, like, chimes in every time Rimuru's doing some internal monologuing, and he just says, hey, Rimuru, I need some new manga. Hey, Rimuru, let me go fight this thing for you. And Rimuru's like, no, fucking Veldora, you're a fucking natural disaster, stop. And then he's like, but Rimuru, I'm so bored. And so that's one thing...
before you could go, I do want to point out that in the Japanese dub of this show, Veldora is voiced by Tomoaki Maeno, and he is clearly having a very good time voicing this character.
Yeah, because Veldora is supposed to be like a high and mighty, pompous like type of character, because he's one of the oh fuck, I don't know if they talked about that yet. He's a dragon, and they're basically like gods in this world, right? And monsters in the Tempest the Jura Forest? Yeah, Jura Forest.
The Jura Forest, yes.
Before it became the Jura Tempest Forest. The Jura Forest, all the monsters there worshipped Veldora as a god, right? So it gives you a little like insight into like these dragon folk, and then like you look at Milim and see how strong she is, and she's a descendant of a dragon. It's like, yeah, dragons are basically gods in this universe.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that gives you a little bit of implication of like, why is he so pompous? And then they don't talk about it. I hope they talk about it a little bit later. But basically, Veldora is he's the wind dragon, and he gets bored very easily, right? Like, it's explained that I don't know if Raphael Sensei ever explained the reason why Veldora is even stuck in a time prison in the very beginning. He was bored and wanted to see the magic that the hero was going to use. So he just let him get hit by the magic. And he was like, whoa, that's crazy. He also thought the hero was cute or something, I think, in the novel.
I do love the human design for Veldora, though. It's pretty great.
Oh, yeah. He's just like a buff guy.
just a buff weeb.
Yeah, I really like Veldora as a character just because he's so like... He's just so chaotic, and I just love it. And I hope that when they do the eventually they're gonna do the labyrinth scene because that's part of the season 3. But they basically play D&D later on, and it's fucking hilarious.
Awesome. So, moving on. So, one of the things we do learn in this opening 6 episodes is about a upcoming event called Walpurgis, which is essentially like a banquet or a get-together of all of the demon lords that's held when they need to discuss something very important, or sometimes, as we found out, not very important in history. A great deal of the next couple episodes after that deal with people preparing for this meeting. One of the things that's done is it's kind of laid out that Milim is not taking part in what she's doing very willingly.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, Clayman has this ring that holds some power over Milim, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we see that in the previous season, he was like holding on to that ring, and then all of a sudden it's around Milam's neck. So now, like, obviously he somehow gave it to her. She probably thought it was a present because it's Milam. She's the strongest motherfucker alive next to Guy Crimson. So
Yeah, well, I mean, it's shown that it was given to her
by Frey
under false pretenses by one of the other
I think
demon lords.
Frey gives it to Milam.
Yeah,
so Frey was
as
like
a
in on this
quote-unquote
plan.
gift.
And for whatever reason, this thing has some power to mind control her. Yeah. So that's what we think so far, that Milam is mind controlled and that Clayman somehow found an artifact, like, referring to that. And the story that we get about Milam is that, like, apparently there was a princess of an old kingdom that had a dragon, and then her dragon dies, and then she, like, turns into a demon lord because she gets upset. And then they're like, oh, that's obviously Milam, right? Mm-hmm. So it's implied that maybe the ring has some power over Milam because it has something to do with that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also been revealed that part of, after Milam was quote unquote controlled by Clayman, she agreed to the whole Walpurgis thing, and it's discussed that at least 3 demon lords have to agree to hold Walpurgis for it to take place.
Yeah, because
so it was
demon lords
Clayman,
have their
Milam,
own
and Frey, who I think were the ones that voted for it.
Yeah, Clayman, Milam, and Frey voted to hold Walpurgis because Rimuru basically slaps the shit out of Clayman's plan. So he was like, well, that's fine. I'll just use the other demon lords and condemn you and make sure they take you out instead. Right?
Yeah, and
that's his entire fucking plan.
That's the entire point of this Walpurgis, because they know that Rimuru is gonna come since he's been awakened as a true demon lord, and like obvious trap is obvious, dude. It's literally meant to just get him there in the same room so they can all just gang up on him at once, and that's Clayman's scheme. I mean, he can take out one loose end all right at one time.
Well, he implies that it would be great if Milam and Rimuru kill each other in battle, or Hinata too. He's just like, it'd be great if they just fucking both died, right? But he was like, but Milam basically is never going to die because, again, she's a descendant of a dragon, so she's not going to fucking die. And, Clayman's just setting it up as a plot. And because, like, so you can't come into the world and declare yourself a demon lord. You have to be voted in. Like, you have to have a recommendation from the current demon lords to become a demon lord. Because it's implied that, so, like, the oldest demon lord is Guy Crimson. They tell you that. And, like, the second one would be, like, Milam and... fucking don't remember the guy's name. The giant guy. I think he's the second or the third oldest or something.
Yeah, but the point is, like, it's almost a democracy. You have to be allowed in by, like, a majority of the other demon lords.
So they hold it and they invite this upstart demon lord who's calling himself a demon lord when in this world you can't just call yourself a demon lord. Because, again, you need to be appointed... What's the fucking quote from the prequel? You sit on this council, but we do not grant you the title.
Grant you the rank of master.
Yeah, that. Basically that.
What? How can I be on the council and not be a master?
Yeah. So basically that's what they want to prevent, and that's why that's Clayman's pretense for, like, oh, well, there's this guy claiming to be a demon lord, so we gotta have a meeting about this, guys. He's like, all right, whatever.
And part of Walpurgis is each demon lord is allowed to bring 2 basically underlings with them to the meeting if they so choose.
Technically speaking, it's 2 attendants.
Yeah.
It's not underlings, it's 2 attendants.
But same difference. I mean, they're allowed to bring 2 people with them.
Yeah.
And Rimuru ends up choosing secretary girl. God, I forget. Shion. And best boy Ranga.
I fucking love Ranga. He didn't get as many
Ranga
voice
got
lines.
so little screen time in the second season. It's such a tragedy. But so that's who he ends up choosing, and it's pretty great. We also got the fairy bitch. I forget her name now.
Ramirez?
There's so many characters in this, and I can't remember any of their names half the time. Ramirez, yes, Ramirez came back after seemingly having very little to do in the first season. Yeah, she came back, and like we got a bunch of people coming back that we've been introduced to, but very little very little backstory to them. So I'm glad some of them got a chance to come back for this. But yeah, so that's pretty much what the 7th and 8th episode are. And then you have one of the things that's also being planned as this is all going on is the nation of Tempest is going to go try and take back Eurazania from Clayman's forces, who are attacking and essentially invading the country. That's why you have sort of the refugee beastkeepers that are staying in Tempest. So they're going to go try and take this back while all of this is going on with Walpurgis. They see it as an opportune, like a great opportunity to like go on the offensive.
Right.
And
so
part
first
of this
of all, they're called the Three Beastketeers.
Oh well, in the English translation, they're called Beastkeepers.
Yeah, I know. In the web novel, it was translated as the Three Beastketeers.
Wow, that's not good. That's not good. But where was I going with this? Oh, so I was gonna say, so Reamer has definitely been reading The Art of War, where it says to attack your enemy when they're on the advance. So there's definitely that. Also, I'm just gonna throw this out there: Benimaru, best general.
I mean, he's the only general, but
Nah,
I don't think Tempest has any other generals.
He's a good military leader, as it shows in this battle, because he puts the right people in the right places. And this is really besides the fight during Walpurgis, and I guess you could also say the Adelman fight, which comes during all of these events. That's really the only quote unquote fights that there are in this half of the season. But the Beastkeeper fights were all really good, I thought. You have Albus with Gobta versus Yamza. Yamza is also a character I feel like should have gotten a little more screen time, maybe.
I mean, so the problem is that his screen time was like, it was like the web novel. He's kind of just like the villain of the moment, and he's never heard of ever again. So it's kind of like they already showed how
a little more build up.
They gave him plenty of build up. Like essentially, what he did in the anime or what he did in the web novel is what he did in the anime. Shows up, you fucking dragon priest guys, fuck you guys. It's your fault that we have to be here. He's just like overall a piece of shit. And then, like, gets his shit fucking kicked in, so.
I love how every time Midray gets angry, everyone just calls him a melon. Because his head turns red. You have Phobio and Geld versus Footman and Tyr, two of the Harlequin bitches, the clown bitches, who apparently are way stronger, again, than they look. This is what I mean. Like, these people are obviously way stronger than they outwardly appear. Because you have Geld, the pig dude, who is obviously strong and a capable warrior, and you have Phobio, who is one of the Beastkeepers. Like, obviously, these people are strong, and yet they can barely hold their own against these two people. And then you have the Sufia and Gabiru, my boy Gabiru, versus Midray, which that was weird because it's almost like, because Midray is part of, I forget what the actual terminology is for it. They're basically followers of Milim, right?
Yeah, they're the citizens of Milim's land. They're all apparently descended dragon folk.
I forget. I know there's a name for it. And I didn't write it down here, but yeah, they're essentially followers of Milim. And it kind of confused me as to why they were fighting him in the first place. But then I realized, oh yeah, Milim's like bad now.
Milim's allied with Clayman, so they're kind of just following what Milim says. And I love how it's implied that he's actually way stronger than he appears, and he could have actually destroyed all of the Clayman's troops himself. But Midray is like,
I thought it was actually kind of funny, to be perfectly honest with you. Which makes me think like when he was having that beef with Yamza, could he just sucker punch him and kill him?
Oh yeah, 100%. So that's something that they didn't show in the anime, which they talk about in the novel. he could literally just eviscerate the entire army, but he doesn't. Like, the reason why the dragon folk don't fight back is because Milim, for whatever reason, they're like, well, Milim's doing something, and we don't disobey her because she's our ruler.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so, like, disciplined. They're so disciplined in just following what their ruler says. And this plays a big part into, like, the next thing that happens. So it's again, I wouldn't say they yada yada over a lot of stuff, but they do leave out minor details like that, because overall, in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. But to me, that type of flavored text really helps flesh out the world. So it's important to me to see.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with you on that one. By the way, they're called Dragon Faithful. I don't know why I couldn't get that. I couldn't remember that, but that's what they're called. The people who follow Milim, the Dragon Faithful.
Yeah, like in his battle with Gabudu, he talks about how Dragonutes are descendants of dragons, but they went to one path where they stayed dragon-like, and then Midray and the rest of them decided their bloodline was they're also dragons, right? But they chose to stay with the human form.
Yeah,
and
that kind of a weird like reveal, but like it kind of makes sense, but it was also like I wasn't expecting it.
Well, there's a reason for it, but I'm not sure if they're ever going to talk about it in the anime. And it has to do with, again, spoilers for the end of the of Slime Tensei, so I'm not going to say nothing until probably we finish the season 3 Spoilercast. If I remember to talk about it, I'll talk about every single thing that they left out that creates flavor text for the anime or for the Slime Tensei world.
By the way, I don't know if you realize this, or if anybody who watched the anime realized this. So the tactic that they used in that fight that in Eurozania, it's a very similar to the tactics that were used at the Battle of Hastings in 1066, where they funnel everyone into like a valley and then attack them from above.
I mean, I feel like that's just good war tactics in general. I really don't know if that was like their intent or something,
I don't know if it was the intent, but I thought that if it was their intent, it's a good nod to an actual historical battle. But anyway, as all this is going on in the battle in Urania, I almost want to call it Uranesia. God damn it, the Beast People land. Can't even fucking say it. We have Shauna literally being a fucking badass storming Clayman's castle. That was pretty cool. At least I thought it was.
I mean, so we have never seen Shuna fight, right?
No. She's always been like seemingly like this like, I won't say prissy, but like soft.
She's the Miko. She's the priestess. She's the princess priestess, Princess Miko. Yeah. So she's kind of like the one who's always taking care of stuff. Like we know that she can sew and she's weaving stuff. She's a caretaker for Rimuru. So we've never seen her actually fight, but we know that she has magical powers, and apparently she's stronger in magical like powers than Benimaru is. Mm-hmm. We just never see Shuna fight.
Now we did now.
Yeah, and we finally get to see Shuna fight, and it's like, because she's a Miko, she's like, she actually has divine power, and it's like, wait, what the fuck? A demon has divine, or is she a demon? A monster has divine power, and it's like, wait, what? You don't worship a god? There is no god.
I'm your god now.
Yeah, and Adelman was just like, he was a holy priest that was betrayed in his previous life and became a roaming undead because of the curse. And then for whatever reason, he was bound by a curse to the land, and he's being used by Clayman. So the entire fight is just Shuna basically going, you think that's power? This is power. And then like just dumps on Adelman. Every time he summons some new thing, she's just like, ah, ha, 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 ha. Bless.
Like, that's cute. Watch this.
Yeah, so it's and it's nuts because Adelman, he was a holy priest before in his last life before he became an undead, and he's just like, what god do you serve? How do you have magical powers? And then Shuna's just like, I mean, it's just believing and having strong faith in something to have magical healing like powers. So, and he's like, what?
Yeah, I personally, I there's some people that said that fight was over way sooner than it probably should have been. Personally, I thought it was great, especially since we actually get to see what Shuna is now capable of.
I mean, I wouldn't waste too much time on that because again, this season isn't really about the battles, right? The Demon Lord arc is going to be more about the politicking, nation building, and if just wait for the third season, the last season, it's going to be a lot more battles. Just this is all just expositing. We're all supposed to just learn story stuff. Like Adam and then gets defeated, but then Shuna decides not to kill him, or no, he doesn't pass away. Him. No, so she does the holy sanctuary thing, whatever, and then Adelman, he's an undead, so he should be fucking vaporized, but he doesn't fucking get vaporized. And then he's like, well, Shuna-sama, please let me worship your god so I can learn how to use holy powers again, right? Because that's all, his entire life, he just wanted to be a holy man and do good in the world. Like, that's a little bit of his Adelman's backstory. You don't really get to know too much about him, but he is kind of important for the next arc, or the end of the anime.
I feel like that's what I felt like, even as an anime only watcher of this. I felt like, yeah, we're probably going to see him more, especially since at the end of that fight, he's like, all right, let's team up and do this then. And then that's pretty much how the fight ends. Like, the idea was that they were going to go storm Clayman's castle after this is over with, and he's like, all right, well, let me go help you. And then they go off to Clayman's castle to find whatever it is they're going to find. And then for the rest of the season, we don't see them anymore. Like, it never goes back to them. So I feel like that's going to be, whatever the next part of this is, that's what we're going to see, or at least we're going to see the results of that. And then the way that the season ends is with the actual meeting at Walpurgis, and we get the chance to meet all of the demon lords all at once. I do want to say that a lot of them have some unique designs, and I like that. I really like the designs of the demon. They all seem very unique, not just in their designs, but in their personalities. They all seem like they don't all seem like just copy paste of the same like character archetype, which I really like. They also have one who can't stay awake. It's like got narcolepsy.
Oh yeah, Dino.
Yeah. And then once all this happens, of course, there's lots of ceremony with it and whatnot. But then we get Clayman, aka fucking Dio, loving to monologue for an entire episode. What a great speech he gives, and then Rimuru is just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, that's his response to it. He just stands up and says, you lie.
You lie as you breathe.
You lie as you breathe. And here is why. A, B, C, D. And then all the other demon lords looking at Clayman like,
Yeah, so Clayman obviously is like fucking, he's putting on an act, trying to pretend like everything is Rimuru's fault. He killed his subordinate, Miles, whatever the fucking name is. Mulin?
Yes, Murin.
So Murin, the witch girl who was like, who casted the spell so that everyone died because of that, was working under Clayman because Clayman like owned her heart, right? And then we see that obviously Rimuru like destroys her heart because there was a tap on it, and then also replaces it so that way he can keep her as proof against Clayman. And that's why he's like, yeah, I can just like recreate these memories with magic. And then Clayman's like, whoa, those are doctored. Fucking Photoshop. You edited that. Fake news. And then Rimuru's like, fuck, man. Like, how much do I have to prove to you that you're a fucking piece of shit? And I don't really. And then Rimuru just like says, fuck it. You know what, Clayman? I don't give a fuck if people want to believe this or not. I came here to kick your fucking ass and kill you. So then they start fighting. And I'm just like, nice. Like, despite all of Clayman's like plotting this and that, it all comes down to Rimuru going, I don't give a fuck, let's fucking kill each other.
Yeah, I know, right?
And all the other demon lords are just like, all right, sounds good.
I love how Clayman's like big plan was that he was gonna rely on his like charisma and his like ability to persuade just to get everyone else on his side, and then when he tries to do it, everyone just immediately suspects him of trying to pull some shit.
Well, because everyone knows Clayman as, he's like the puppeteer, right? Everyone knows him as the puppet master, so it's kind of expected that he's always plotting something. But for the most part, demon lords don't really care what other demon lords are plotting and doing, because like, as long as you don't invade their land, they really don't give a shit what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, they're very libertarian in that regard. They're like, listen, you go do what you want to do in your own land. I'll stay here and do what I want to do in my land. We won't worry about each other. And then occasionally we'll get together and talk about shit. That's pretty much how it goes as demon lords in this world, it seems like. What did you actually think of the Clayman fight, though? Was it worth the payoff?
Not really.
Or was the build-up worth the payoff?
So, the Clayman fight it lasts a lot longer in the novel by like a little bit. In the anime, it lasted like 5 minutes. But I mean, I get why it's not really that big of a fight. The most disappointing thing was, again, when Clayman gets defeated, he has that inner monologue in the flashbacks, and there's a lot of expositing that goes with that shine a light on like who's the true villain and like the true intentions of Clayman, and just like hints at other things. That's what I didn't like about the anime version, because they didn't do that, and it's kind of disappointing because it's really good flavor text. There's a little bit of more information for you to think about in the back of your head.
Yeah, it does seem like it could have used a bit more, especially given the build up to this fight. I feel like there could have been some more to it, like you say. I think one thing that a lot of us were suspecting, and it was definitely confirmed in this fight, is Milim doing the double cross.
Yeah, so Milim was never controlled.
No, she just pretended to be controlled so that she could draw out Clayman's true nature.
So Milim knew that Clayman was up to something, but because Milim was like, she's not a smart thinker, she was like, I don't know what to do. And then she was like, you know what? I'm going to pretend to be mind controlled, and then I'm going to expose Clayman to the other demon lords, and then have Rimuru clean it up. Like, that was her entire plan. And, props to Milim. Like, Clayman fucking smacks her upside the head multiple times and punches her and stuff, and she just does nothing. Because, one, it does no damage to her because, she's the chaotic dragon destroyer or whatever. Mila Novum. So she doesn't really take damage. So, it's funny that Clayman even considered that he could possibly take her over, but it is explained that Yuki said that, like Clayman says it, it's like Yuki said that this stone has the power to take over Milim, even though it didn't. So that was a weird thing.
Did you ever consider that she was lying to you?
Well, see, that's another thing that, one thing that's crazy is that, obviously, when Clayman first takes control of Milim, he, like, does something aggressive to see if she fights back, and she doesn't, right? He's, like, prepared to see, like, if this ring worked or not. And Milim is known...
Milim abuse is kind of hard to watch, to be perfectly honest.
Well, so Milim is known as, like, she does whatever the fuck she wants. Just like Guy Crimson. Like, they do whatever they want because they're kind of, like, super powerful, right? So for Milim to take that punishment and not retaliate, it was really good acting because, again... And if Milim didn't meet Rimuru and start thinking a little bit because of her meeting with Rimuru... She would have just knocked Clayman's lights out, like, instantly. Mm-hmm. Just obliterated him in half the country.
Yeah. I mean, something else we realized during this fight is that Demon Lord Carrion is still alive. He actually just went into hiding when he realized that shit was going down in his own country. I don't know. I'm assuming that has implications going forward.
Not really. I mean, he just knew that something was wrong when he got attacked by... He gets attacked by Milim, and he doesn't know what's going on, and then it's implied that Frey grabs him in the air and, like, rips his throat out or something, right?
Yeah.
And it just cuts to black. So, obviously, Frey was in on it the whole time as well, like, with the whole necklace thing. She was never actually on Clayman's side. She was just like, well, I don't know what to do, but these demon lords are way stronger than me, so I'm just going to play along. Because it's like Clayman has his plot. He wants to take control of Milim and, destroy the world or whatnot. And then Milim goes to Frey and, like, Frey, you're my friend, right? I think Clayman's up to something, and I want to do this plot to, like, get into his court and expose him to the other demon lords. And Frey's just like, well, I don't really care because, again, you're all stronger than me, so I can't really say anything.
Yeah, it was so much scheming, and it's like, it makes me wonder, was anyone besides the other, like, Harlequin clowns, was anyone besides them actually on Clayman's side? I think he stood alone, and he didn't realize it.
No. For the most part, all the other demon lords don't really care what you do. They don't really have a friendship. So the only people under Clayman that would be actually on his side would probably be the clown troop. Because, again, they were all created to serve Lord Kazarian.
Sad. He didn't even realize until the very end that no one was on his side except him.
And again, there was a little bit of that, like, why is that? Why did he even think that he could do this, you know? And they didn't go into it, and man. That was the most disappointing part about this to me, because it's an important detail that plays later on, and I hope they come back to it later on when they get to the whole, like, when they go and confront Yuki and ask him what's going on. I really hope it's explained why Clayman did all this stuff. I really do.
Yeah, me too. And I feel like with Lapis surviving, and that is something that happens after all this. Like we mentioned it before, how Lapis goes back to Valentine after the Walpurgis meeting and says, "Wow, y'all killed y'all killed Clayman. I'm gonna rip your heart out now."
Yeah. So the clown troop is, I think the clown troop is an interesting dynamic, and it plays really well into like thing with Yuki and the rest of this stuff. So
yeah, and I feel like that's something they're gonna come back to with the
they
anime,
better,
at
dude.
least.
They really dropped the ball on this part, because again, they shortened the fight with Clayman, and they didn't even give him the exposition to give you more thinking about what's gonna happen next. So they better fucking do it.
Yeah. I mean, and then something else that happens is Frey and one other person, I cannot remember who, decides to step down as being a demon lord.
Oh, Carrion.
Carrion, that's right, Carrion. Yes, he still wants to rule his land, but he doesn't want to be a demon lord anymore. And so they both are agreed to not be demon lords anymore, which is apparently something you can do. And then the people who are left pretty much unanimously agree to allow Rimuru to join their ranks and become a demon lord. So now there's only 8 of them, and he comes up with the name Octogram to describe them, which is a stupid name, very stupid name.
It's the 8-star demon lords, the Octogram.
Yeah, such a stupid name.
Yeah, so Frey and Carrion decide to step down because they're both like, yeah, we're actually really weak compared to the other demon lords here. Like, the only other demon lord that we were kind of as powerful as was Clayman, because he wasn't a true awakened demon lord yet. He does get truly awakened in the second part when he fights, like, when he gets his second win, and he's like, I won't be defeated. And then he gets fucking instantly deleted, so whatever. Kind of a theme here, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting that they both agree to give up their status as demon lords, but not as rulers over the lands that they have.
Yeah, they wish to still rule their land, but they want to be vassals under Milim, because Milim is super powerful, and overall she's a lot friendlier now that they realize, like, she won't just, like, straight up destroy fucking countries for no reason.
Yeah. And the fact that they all know now that she was doing what she was doing for a reason, to draw out what Clayman was doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's like, I mean, Frey's reasoning is that she's not strong enough, and she'd rather serve under Milim and be an advisor to Milim. And then Carrion's reason was like, well, you owe me a country anyway, so what better way than to work under you and help you, make your people help rebuild my country.
Yeah, I mean, imagine voting or like voluntarily deciding to become a vassal state. That's like, no one's ever done that ever in history, and now it's like, this is actually the best idea we had. And pretty much the season ends with that. I mean, you have Rimuru going back to Tempest with, you know, his newfound status as an actual demon lord, a true demon lord in all senses of the word. Because he's now been voted onto this demon lord council, I guess. And that's pretty much how it ends. And then, of course, you have these seeds that are sown in the back, like what happened with Lapis taking out Valentine as he returns back to his domain. And, like, you know that something big is coming because we still have Yuki out there pulling strings. And we still have the Harlequin clown troupe out there, you know, and obviously they've been revealed to be way more powerful than they outwardly appear. So it definitely feels like a greater, grander confrontation is coming at some point. And I look forward to seeing it. So far, at least as of the time it's recording, a movie has been announced that's coming out in fall 2022. An exact date hasn't been specified, again, as of this recording. And it also hasn't been said yet whether this is actually going to be a continuation of the story or something sort of original or a side story of some kind. John, we were talking about beforehand, he thinks that the next like little arc that's supposed to come after this in the source material, he thinks it actually might be suitable as a movie.
I think it's the tournament arc. So immediately after this, because of all the changes and stuff, the monsters are like, so we haven't had a power ranking thing yet in a long time, and we're all super powerful now, so we should probably decide our rankings in the army. So that's what the entire thing is about. It's the tournament arc. It's literally bout styles, like a round robin bouts. What the fuck is that?
Like a bracket style tournament?
Yeah, it's a bracket style tournament where the lots are randomized, and then they just fight each other for their rankings.
I mean, hey, if it works, it works. Now, you were telling me that you, based on like the length of that arc, you think it could be conducive to like a 90 to 120 minute long movie.
Oh, 100%. It's just a battle tournament, dude. Like, you don't need too much information. Like, so basically the next arc is going to be he's officially a demon lord and the world recognizes it, and he sits on the council, and he has been granted the title of master.
The rank of master.
Yeah, he has been granted the rank of master. So now the rest of the Jura Tempest Forest has to actually submit to his will, because instead of just a small startup nation, he's now a legitimate demon lord with a territory. So they concede him that actual territory. And when a demon lord concedes the territory to someone, that person is now the ruler of this territory. So he established his Tempest as like a city, but he wasn't really a kingdom. He was kind of just a city in the Jura Tempest Forest, right?
Yeah.
Now Tempest is an actual country. So it's an actual nation state, and the rest of the tournament arc is basically going to be like they're going to hold a festival and show off a tournament arc, build a coliseum and everything, and the rest of the species, like inhabitants of the Jura Forest, are going to come greet Rimuru, because again, he's the new demon lord. You got to go greet your new lord.
That's right. You got to go suck up to the new boss.
Yeah. As you do. Yes. If someone was granted a fiefdom and he becomes your the new ruler of your land, you kind of have to like greet him.
Yeah, for sure. So that's pretty much how season 2 ends. I was gonna ask to wrap this up, John. So out of 10, what do you give this second half of the second season?
Honestly, like a 7, because they left out a bunch of important things. It was still enjoyable. I don't think it was actually. It was a good show. No doubt. Like a 7 out of 10 show for me. Because of the OPED, where it wasn't that great, and because they did leave out... 7 out of 10 because I read the source material. If I didn't read the source material, 8 out of 10, right?
Well, that's exactly what I give it, an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, because it's fun. It's still great. It's still Slime Tensei. Like, the battle scenes were shortened, for sure. I feel a little bit skimped on that. Because especially considering season 1 did really well with their battle scenes, like really fucking well.
I think season 1 was super well balanced between its exposition and its action.
But I would also argue that Slime Sensei season 2 is more about the side characters. Like Raphael, or Sage is now turned into Raphael Sensei, and she actually has like an attitude and stuff. Yeah, like when she was about to warn Rimuru that Milim wasn't actually being controlled, but then Rimuru interrupts Raphael Sensei, and then Raphael is just like like exasperated. So that was fucking funny.
Yeah, I give it an 8 out of 10. Like, and you said it, it's just fun. Like, I can't say that Slime Tensei is super deep or super probing or anything in terms of like its narrative, and I can't say that like its OST is like insanely good and super memorable. Its OPs and EDs, yeah, they're mostly good and they're okay. I wouldn't say they're necessarily something to write home about. Certainly not award winning. But overall, like, I'm having fun watching this, and I don't say that very often with Isekai. Like, I'm genuinely having, like, just pure fun watching this, and I feel like that season 2 as a whole was still fun. This one, I kind of dropped the ball a little bit. I may have given it a 9 out of 10 if it had been as, like, tightly directed and written as the first half of the second season. But I still think I still enjoyed the hell out of watching this, and even the first 6 episodes where it's mostly talking, I was still invested in what they were talking about, and that just goes to show that I think there's some good world building in Slime Tensei, that I want to hear people talk about it. But yeah, that's Slime Tensei season 2 part 2. I'm sure that when the movie comes out, like I said, it is a specific date hasn't been announced yet in Japan. It's just fall 2022. Again, as of the time it's recording, I'm sure once it comes west, we will eventually do a spoiler cast on that as well, or maybe even just a straight up movie review on it. Who knows? I am hoping that the movie isn't like the end and they don't try and shoehorn everything that's left into a movie, because that would be terrible. So maybe we will eventually get like a full third season at some point, maybe even a fourth season. Who knows? But until that time, I think that's a good place to end it. Unless you have anything else you want to say before I sign us off.
No.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you all out there for dropping in to listen to us. Check the description below to find links to Anime Club After Dark on Twitch, on social media, and on Discord. You can check out our merch store below as well. Any purchases you make there do really, really help us out. We have a bunch of seasonal stuff that's coming soon. A lot of holiday merch as well, with new holiday and seasonal logos that I will be adding to our merch store soon. So yeah, check that out if you want to support us that way. But with that, I've been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, John.
Good night.
Sidaime.
I got nothing, man.